Let's take a step back in time to 1980 with the would-be comedy film Gorp. This flick, directed by Joseph Ruben, is all about the wild and wacky world of waiters at a Jewish summer camp. It's a full-on slapstick comedy that might just remind you of Meatballs if you suffered a head injury before you watched Meatballs. Imagine a bunch of prank-loving waiters, led by Michael Lembeck and Dennis Quaid, stirring up chaos and trying to charm more than just the socks off of the female staff. It's pure chaos, but not the fun kind. So, did you know that Gorp is actually an old term for trail mix? Yep, that stuff hikers munch on, with raisins, nuts, and all that good high-energy stuff. It's a fun little nod to the camp setting of the movie. Here's an understatement. Not everyone was into Gorp. Critics slammed it for not delivering the charm or humour of its contemporaries like Animal House. They thought it tried too hard with its crude gags and ended up feeling a bit disjointed, like a bunch of skits thrown together rather than a smooth story. Despite all that, it's a noteworthy film for featuring early performances by Dennis Quaid and Fran Drescher before they hit the big time. Quaid especially went on to rock it in Hollywood with roles in huge movies like The Right Stuff and The Big Easy. And although Gorp may not have been everyone's cup of tea back in the day, it's interesting to see where it stands in Joseph Ruben's career, especially compared to his later, more serious films like The Stepfather. So, if you're up for a dose of nostalgia or just curious to see a young Dennis Quaid causing trouble at summer camp, why not give Gorp a go? It's bad, but maybe you will find it so bad it's good. Gorp was released on May 1st, 1980. The film holds a 23% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes and a truly rotten 3.6 out of 10 from users on IMDb. Hey horror movie buffs! Let's chat about a true classic that redefined Fright Night, Friday the 13th. Directed by Sean S. Cunningham and penned by Victor Miller, this 1980 slasher flick set the stage for a whole decade of screams and has earned its stripes as a cult classic. So what's the scoop? Picture this: Camp Crystal Lake, pretty much your typical summer camp, except for its creepy past. Way back when, a young kid named Jason Voorhees drowned there because the counselors weren't paying attention. Following his death, the camp saw some brutal killings, which caused it to shut down. Fast forward, and it's reopening time. A bunch of young counselors show up to spruce up the place, unaware of what's lurking around. And yeah, they start dropping like flies, thanks to a mysterious stalker. Plot twist: the killer is none other than Pamela Voorhees, Jason's mum, out for revenge. And just when you think it's all over, bam! Jason pops out of the lake in a final jump scare that's totally epic. Who's who? Betsy Palmer nails it as the creepy Pamela Voorhees. Adrienne King shines as Alice Hardy. And yes, that's Kevin Bacon as Jack Burrell. Plus, loads of others who keep the campfire burning, making the movie. Friday the 13th was shot with a budget just shy of $550,000 and filmed at Camp Nobi Bosco in New Jersey, which perfectly set the scene for Camp Crystal Lake. Cunningham was all in to make a film that scared the pants off us while raking in some cash, and guess what? He nailed it. Box office and beyond. When it hit the screens on May 9th, 1980, this movie killed it, pulling in nearly $60 million worldwide. Critics weren't all fans, mainly bashing it for being too violent and feeling a bit shallow. But hey, the fans loved it, and it turned into a massive franchise with sequels, a TV series, and even comic books. What the critics said. Roger Ebert wasn't thrilled, likening it to The Omen meets Animal House. Gene Siskel spilled the beans on the killer trying to turn folks away. But not everyone was a downer. Some admitted it had its nail-biting moments and delivered on the chills. Legacy check. Despite the rocky start with critics, Friday the 13th has gotten some love over the years as a pivotal piece of the horror puzzle, making Jason Voorhees a legend in the mask-wearing maniac department. Cool fact, that iconic ki-ki-ki ma-ma-ma sound. All thanks to composer Harry Manfredini, who used his voice, a bit of whispering, and some echo effects to give us the chills. It's all based on the creepy line, "Kill her, mummy." Pretty clever, right? So whether you're a die-hard fan or a newbie to the series, Friday the 13th is a must-watch that's as thrilling now as it was back in the day. Grab some popcorn, maybe keep the lights on, and enjoy the ride. Friday the 13th was released on May 9th, 1980. The film holds a 66% positive rating from Rotten Tomatoes and a 6.4 out of 10 from users on IMDb. The Nude Bomb, a 1980 comedy film, originated from the popular 1960s TV series Get Smart, created by Mel Brooks and Buck Henry. Also known as The Return of Maxwell Smart, the film is directed by Clive Donner and features Don Adams reprising his role as the bumbling secret agent Maxwell Smart, or Agent 86. Maxwell Smart is called back into action by Control to thwart Norman St. Sauvage, who has developed a nude bomb that destroys clothing but leaves people unharmed. St. Sauvage plans to use this weapon to force the world to wear his exclusive clothing line. Smart teams up with Agent 22, played by Andrea Howard, and his former chief, portrayed by Dana Elcott, to stop the villain's plot. The film aims to capture the slapstick humour and satirical tone of the original series. Upon release, The Nude Bomb received mostly negative reviews, with critics noting it failed to capture the original show's charm and intelligence. While Don Adams' performance was praised, the humour was seen as dated and the plot thin. It was largely viewed as a disappointing addition to the Get Smart legacy. Despite its failures both critically and at the box office, The Nude Bomb still holds interest among Get Smart enthusiasts and fans of 1960s TV. The film notably suffered from the absence of key elements like Agent 99 and iconic catchphrases from the show. Barbara Feldon, who played Agent 99, was absent due to contractual and salary disputes, significantly impacting the film's reception. The Nude Bomb premiered on May 9, 1980, and holds a 17% critic rating on Rotten Tomatoes and a 5.1 user score on IMDb. Get ready to dive into Dennis Hopper's overlooked gem, Out of the Blue. This intense Canadian drama from 1980 shines a light on the rough life of a struggling teen and her chaotic family. Some say it's one of Hopper's best works, both in front and behind the camera. Definitely a must-see for fans. What's it all about? Meet CB, a 15-year-old rebel played by Linda Manz. She's all about punk rock and Elvis Presley, her way of tuning out the real world. Her dad, Don, played by Dennis Hopper, is back from prison after a tragic accident and he's trying to fix things up at home. But you know, it's complicated. CB's mum, Kathy, is battling her own demons and isn't much help either. As Don tries to get his life back on track, CB's life spirals out of control. The film takes us deep into this family's troubles, exploring neglect, abuse, and a cycle of violence that's tough to break. And brace yourselves, the ending is as shocking as it gets. CB's punk persona isn't just cool, it's her shield against the world crumbling around her. A raw, unfiltered look at how addiction and neglect mess up lives, especially from a kid's perspective. It's intense how the film shows violence just passing from one generation to the next. Who's in it? Besides Linda Manz killing it as CB and Dennis Hopper as her flawed dad, there's Sharon Farrell as the troubled mum. Legendary actor Raymond Burr is also in Out of the Blue, but his role was significantly cut, and Burr blasted the movie as the worst experience of his lengthy career. Behind the scenes, originally Leonard Yakir was set to direct, but when things didn't pan out, Hopper stepped in, giving the film a darker, edgier feel that matched the punk vibe of the time. The film stirred up a lot of talk at its Cannes debut, earning boos and jeers from those in attendance. But over time, critics like Roger Ebert have brought some well-deserved appreciation to this intense drama. Its legacy now a cult classic, Out of the Blue holds a special place in punk cinema. It's raw, real, and hits hard. Perfect for anyone who's into movies that don't shy away from the grittier side of life. Out of the Blue debuted at the Cannes Film Festival before seeing a very small release on May 9th, 1980. The film holds a 95% positive rating on Rotten Tomatoes and a 7.2 rating from users of IMDb. Let's dive into the whimsical world of the 1980 animated film The Return of the King. This flick is a playful take on J.R.R. Tolkien's epic, whipped up by the folks at Rankin Bass Productions. If you loved their 1977 The Hobbit, you're in for a treat because this one's the follow-up. It originally hit screens as a TV special, so grab your popcorn and let's get into the nitty-gritty, produced by the dynamic duo of Arthur Rankin Jr. and Jules Bass, who put their magic touch on classics like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and Frosty the Snowman. These guys teamed up with Japan's Top Craft for the animation. Yep, that's the studio that eventually morphed into the legendary Studio Ghibli. The film's catchy tunes, credit goes to Maury Laws and Jules Bass. Keep an ear out for Where There's a Whip, There's a Way. It's quite the earworm. What's the story? To put it simply, it's the grand finale of the Lord of the Rings saga. We've got Frodo trying to ditch the cursed One Ring into Mount Doom's fiery pits, and a massive clash that would decide the fate of Middle-earth at the Battle of Pelennor Fields. Oh, and Aragorn steps up as the King of Gondor. It all kicks off with Bilbo Baggins, Frodo's cousin, being all curious about what went down after the Hobbit events, leading us to a flashback that spills all the beans. The animation, colourful, a tad simplistic but full of charm, classic Rankin Bass style. It's friendly and a bit lighter compared to Ralph Bakshi's darker take in the 1978's version. Even though they had to squeeze Tolkien's massive story into just 98 minutes, yeah, lots got trimmed, it's still a fun ride. Some folks adored its straightforward, kid-friendly vibe, making it a cool intro to Tolkien's universe for the young ones. Others felt it was too simple and couldn't stand up to its more detailed counterparts. Despite its quirks, the film carved its niche in the Tolkien saga on screen. Orson Bean brings Frodo to life, just like he did with Bilbo in The Hobbit, while Roddy McDowall nails it as Samwise Gamgee. And don't forget John Huston's wise and towering Gandalf. There's no big drama about legal tiffs between Rankin Bass and Ralph Bakshi. Seems like they managed to sort their stuff without turning it into a courtroom showdown. Wrapping it up, The Return of the King from 1980 might not be the crown jewel of Tolkien adaptations, but it's got its charm. With its memorable music and quirky animation, it captures the spirit of its time and gives us a lighter way to enjoy a usually intense story. It's a cozy throwback that holds its own special place in the hearts of Tolkien enthusiasts. Hey movie lovers, dive into the iconic 1980 musical drama Fame, directed by Alan Parker. Experience the rigorous journey of talented students at the New York City High School of Performing Arts, where dreams of dancing, singing, acting, and music become reality. The journey, it starts with nail-biting auditions, progresses through challenging freshman realities, intensifies during sophomore and junior years with growing pressures and evolving relationships, and culminates in a grand graduation finale. Each phase showcases the struggles and triumphs of nurturing artistic dreams. Beyond performance, Fame explores deep themes like ambition, identity, and friendship, offering a vivid portrayal of young artists striving for greatness amidst the tough dynamics of showbiz. The cast shines. Irene Cara as Coco Hernandez, Jean Anthony Ray as Leroy Johnson, Barry Miller as Ralph Garcy, Maureen Teefy as Doris Finsicker, Paul McCrane as Montgomery McNeil, Lee Carreri as Bruno Martelli. Fun fact, that iconic street dance scene where the students spontaneously dance in the streets of New York City to the title song Fame was filmed guerrilla style. The filmmakers did not obtain permits to block off traffic for the scene, so the actors and dancers performed in the streets with real New Yorkers going about their day. Legacy, earning an Oscar for Best Original Song, Fame became a cultural anthem and inspired a TV series, stage musicals, and a 2009 remake. The film is still celebrated for its dynamic musical numbers and authentic capture of the art scene. Catch the unforgettable Fame, a classic still resonating with audiences. It boasts an 81% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes and a 6.6 user rating on IMDb. Don't miss this blast from the past, where aspirations and realities collide in the heart of NYC. Hey everyone, if you're all about punk rock and chaotic storytelling, you've got to check out The Great Rock and Roll Swindle. This 1980 British mockumentary, directed by Julian Temple, is a wild ride from start to finish. It's a tongue-in-cheek look at the rise and fall of the Sex Pistols, the legendary punk rockers who shook the world. So, here's the scoop. The movie spins a tale, mixing real events with pure fiction, all shown through a series of crazy vignettes and animated bits. It centres around Malcolm McLaren, the band's manager, who plays himself and claims he orchestrated the whole Sex Pistols phenomenon as a massive scam to milk the music biz. In the film, McLaren is the puppet master, making the band famous just to stir up the media and rake in the cash, suggesting everything from their wild antics to their epic breakup was all part of his master plan. It's a wild, exaggerated take, but man, is it entertaining! The film doesn't just entertain, it makes you think, poking fun at how the punk rebellion was turned into a money-making machine. It's all about the clash between real rebellion and its commercialization, and how the true message of punk got twisted by those looking to profit. The cast is pretty iconic, with Steve Jones as the Crook, Paul Cook as the Tea Maker, and even Sid Vicious popping up in that unforgettable My Way performance. Johnny Rotten, though, isn't in it. His part's covered by an actor in the animations. Made after the band split up, the movie stirred up lots of controversies, especially from Johnny Rotten, who wasn't happy with the portrayal. Lydon's legal battle with McLaren and the demise of the Sex Pistols threatened to stop the film from being released. Despite the drama, it's become a cult classic, especially if you're into the punk scene. It's like a time capsule of that crazy, intense time. Who can forget the notorious My Way scene with Sid, filmed guerrilla style at Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris? No permits, all guts. That shoot was as punk as it gets, adding to the film's scandalous fame. Released back in May 1980, The Great Rock and Roll Swindle holds a solid 100% on Rotten Tomatoes from critics and a decent 6.4 from viewers on IMDb. Humanoids from the Deep, also known as Monster, is a 1980 American science fiction horror film directed by Barbara Peters. The film is a blend of creature feature, exploitation, and horror, with a whole lot of campy B-movie appeal. The film is set in a small fishing town on the Northern California coast, where a genetic experiment goes horribly wrong. The plot centers around the creation of humanoid sea creatures, which are the result of a government-backed experiment intended to boost the local salmon population. However, these experiments lead to the development of aggressive, amphibious humanoids that emerge from the sea to terrorize the town, leading to a series of attacks on the local populace. The town's residents, including the local fisherman Jim Hill, scientist Dr. Susan Drake, and others, must band together to stop the humanoids before the entire town is destroyed. The film's controversial content, especially the scenes involving sexual violence, were a subject of criticism when the film was released. In fact, director Barbara Peters and star Ann Turkel stated that the scenes of nudity and attacks on women were not in the film they made. Rather, those exploitative scenes were added by the film's producer, the legendary schlock filmmaker Roger Corman. Peters and Turkel even petitioned to have their names removed from the film, but were denied by union rules. Regardless, Many critics had good things to say about Peters as a director when they weren't erroneously blaming her for the uglier aspects of the movie. A little-known fact about Humanoids from the Deep is that James Horner, who later became a renowned film composer, created the score for the movie early in his career. Despite the film's low budget and B-movie status, Horner's work on the score was one of his first major projects in the film industry. Horner would go on to compose iconic scores for blockbuster films such as Titanic, Braveheart, Avatar, and Aliens. His score for the film is often noted for elevating the overall atmosphere and tension, contributing significantly to the movie's cult status. Humanoids from the Deep was released on May 16, 1980. Today, the film holds a 55% rating on Rotten Tomatoes and a 5.7 out of 10 rating on IMDb. Have you caught The Long Riders yet? It's this rad 1980 Western directed by Walter Hill. If you're all about crazy adventures and real-life sibling dynamics, this one's a must-watch. What's super cool is that the movie stars actual brothers as iconic outlaws from the James Younger gang. So here's the scoop. The film dives into the wild lives of the James Younger gang. These were some notorious bad boys of the post-Civil War American Midwest. Think bank robberies, close calls with the law, and some serious brotherly drama. Leading the pack are the James brothers, Jesse, played by James Keach, and Frank, Stacy Keach. The younger brothers, Cole, David Carradine, Jim, Keith Carradine, and Bob, Robert Carradine, also stir up some major trouble. The gang's not complete without the Miller brothers and the Ford brothers stirring the pot, and it all builds up to this epic showdown in Northfield, Minnesota that you just gotta see. 'Tis really cool how the film uses real-life brothers to amp up the authenticity, like the Keachs as the James brothers and the Carradines rocking it as the younger bros. The chemistry is just off the charts. Walter Hill brings this gritty, raw vibe that just pulls you in. The landscapes are starkly beautiful, and Ry Cooder's music, absolutely haunting. It's like you're right there in the dusty streets. While it didn't exactly smash the box office, pulling in around $15 million, it's nailed that cult classic status over the years. Critics dug it for sticking close to the historical truths and the whole authentic feel. And let's not forget the badass slow-mo gunfight scenes. They're something else. Did you know the big climactic shootout was actually influenced by a real mishap? David Carradine got himself a real-life battle scar thanks to a blank cartridge misfire. Instead of a retake, that gritty detail made it into the film, making the whole thing feel even more real. So if you're into westerns with a twist, The Long Riders is your ticket to wild outlaw adventures with a slice of true brotherly bonds. Grab your popcorn and get ready for a ride back to the rugged Old West. The Long Riders was released on May 16, 1980. The film holds an 81% positive critics score on Rotten Tomatoes and a 6.9 out of 10 rating on IMDb. Hey Star Wars fans, let's throw it back to 1980 with The Empire Strikes Back. Directed by the talented Irvin Kershner, this epic adventure is the second piece of the original trilogy puzzle, and boy, does it pack a punch. Written by Lee Brackett and Lawrence Kasdan, based on a story by the legendary George Lucas, this film picks up the epic saga right where A New Hope left off. What's going down? So, 3 years after the Death Star went kaboom, our rebel friends are hiding out on the icy planet Hoth. But guess what? The Empire is hot on their heels, hungry for some payback. Once the Empire zeroes in on them, our rebel heroes have to beat feet out of there. Now, here's where things get juicy. Luke's wild ride. Luke Skywalker, played by Mark Hamill, jets off to the swampy digs of Dagobah to learn the ways of the Force from the one and only Jedi Master Yoda, voiced by Frank Oz. But things get real when Luke peeps a vision of his buddies in danger and decides to bail on Yoda's training to face Darth Vader, voiced by James Earl Jones. Drama, right? Han and Leia's narrow escape. Han Solo, our favourite smuggler-turned-hero, played by Harrison Ford, along with Princess Leia, the fierce leader of the Rebel Alliance, played by Carrie Fisher, Chewbacca, and C-3PO, end up on Cloud City. They think they're safe with Han's old pal Lando Calrissian, played by Billy D. Williams, but surprise, it's a trap. Vader beats them there and all hell breaks loose. And if that isn't enough to keep you on the edge of your seat, Vader drops the mother of all bombshells. He tells Luke he's his father. Talk about a family drama. Who's who? Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill. The young Jedi who's got a lot on his plate, learning about the Force and dealing with some heavy family revelations. Princess Leia Organa, Carrie Fisher. She's not just a leader, she's got a love angle with Han going strong. Han Solo, Harrison Ford. The charming rogue who's always in the thick of it. Darth Vader, the big bad with a secret that changes everything. Yoda, the wise Jedi who knows the Force like the back of his hand. Lando Calrissian, Han's buddy who finds himself caught up in this intergalactic mess. How did everyone take it? When it first hit theatres, The Empire Strikes Back threw some fans for a loop with its darker vibes and cliffhangers. But man, has it stood the test of time. Today, it's hailed as one of the greatest films in the galaxy, known for taking storytelling and character development to new heights. It set the bar sky high for how sequels should be done, influencing countless other franchises. Preserved for all time in the US National Film Registry, The Empire Strikes Back continues to be a cultural titan. And get this, the big "I am your father" reveal was so hush-hush that almost no one knew until the premiere. They even used a fake line during shooting to keep it under wraps. So whether you're watching it for the first time or the 100th, The Empire Strikes Back is a must-see on your Star Wars journey. Tune in, turn up the volume, and get ready for a wild ride through the galaxy. Experience the drama of carnival life with Carny, directed by Robert Kaler. The 1980 drama film Carny stars Gary Busey, Jodie Foster and Robbie Robertson, offering a raw glimpse into the life of travelling carnival workers. The film shines a light on themes of camaraderie, deception and the allure of a nomadic lifestyle through its vivid and unembellished narrative. Plot summary. The story centres on three key characters: Frankie, Gary Busey, a seasoned carnival barker known for his charisma and expertise; Patch, Robbie Robertson, a reflective clown who is Frankie's confidant; Donna, Jodie Foster, a newcomer captivated by the freedom of the carnival life, whose presence stirs emotional turmoil within the group. As Donna escapes her mundane life and immerses herself in the carnival, her relationships with Frankie and Patch deepen, sparking tensions and gripping drama. The portrayal remains true to the stark realities of carnival culture, focusing on the personal struggles and dreams of its inhabitants. Production and style shot on location at various real carnivals, Carny captures the essence of this unique subculture through its use of genuine carnival settings and personnel. Its documentary-like authenticity is enriched by having real carnival workers as extras. Reception and legacy. Despite receiving mixed reviews upon release, highlighting the film's slow pace, the performances of Foster and Busey were widely praised. Over time, Carny has garnered a cult following, appreciated for its in-depth character exploration and realistic portrayal of carnival life. Robbie Robertson, known for his musical talent with the band, also made significant contributions to the film as a co-producer and composer, marking his debut in the film industry. While not a blockbuster hit, Carny remains a cherished representation of a lesser-known lifestyle, resonating with enthusiasts of unique, character-driven cinema from the era. Released May 23, 1980, today, Carny holds a 57% rating from critics on Rotten Tomatoes and a 6.4 out of 10 rating from users on IMDb. movie buffs ready for a blast from the past? Join us on a wild ride back to 1980 with the action comedy Die Laughing. Directed by Jeff Werner and featuring the charismatic Robbie Benson alongside Linda Grosvenor and Charles Durning. This film blends humour, thrills and a dash of suspense. Picture this. A young musician in San Francisco dreams of rock stardom, suddenly finds his life upended by a monkey with a secret formula. Yes, a monkey. Plot twist. Robbie Benson stars as Paco, a hopeful rock musician. His life takes a wild turn when it entrusts him with a pet monkey. No ordinary monkey, but one carrying a tape with a formula for a potent chemical weapon. Suddenly, Paco is the target of both criminals and cops, but he isn't alone. He teams up with Diana, played by Linda Grosvenor, and together they navigate a maze of chaos, dodging danger while cracking jokes. Behind the scenes, Die Laughing features Robbie Benson not only as an actor but also a musician, contributing several songs to the film's soundtrack. Cult appeal. Though not a blockbuster, Die Laughing is a charming nod to the quirks of 80s cinema, combining action, comedy and an unforgettable monkey sidekick. Rediscover the charm of Die Laughing. It's an 80s gem that might just make you laugh, or hey, die laughing. Tune in for a piece of retro cinema like no other. Die Laughing was released on May 23, 1980. The film has no critic or audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, but it does have a mediocre 4.7 out of 10 rating from users on IMDb. Let's take a walk on the wild side with the Gong Show movie, a crazy comedy from 1980 directed by none other than Chuck Barris himself. Yeah, the same guy who brought you the wacky TV talent show, The Gong Show, in the 1970s. This movie is like peeking behind the curtain and seeing all the madness that went into making the show, and how it turned Chuck's life upside down. So here's the scoop. In the movie, Chuck Barris plays himself, well, a wilder version of himself, dealing with all sorts of nutty and funny situations as he tries to keep the show running. Picture this. Every day he's bombarded with the weirdest acts you can imagine and a ton of backstage chaos. It's no wonder he starts to question his whole career and life choices, leading to some hilariously dramatic moments. What makes the film super cool is that it mixes real footage from The Gong Show with reenactments of some of the most bizarre moments from the show. You'll see some familiar faces too, like Gene Gene, the dancing machine, and the unknown comic. Now, not everyone loved it when it first hit the screens. Critics weren't too kind, calling it a bit messy and more of a series of skits than a standalone movie. Beloved by fans of the TV show for its campy humour and behind-the-scenes craziness. And get this, the film even has a cameo from comedy queen Carol Burnett. She pops up as an auditionee, doing a hilariously bad singing act that gets the Gong treatment. It's a fun moment that links two of TV's comedy legends, Chuck Barris and Carol Burnett. Despite its rocky start, the Gong Show movie has carved out its own quirky place in film history, capturing the excessive, eccentric vibe of late 70s and early 80s TV. It's a wild ride through the mind of one of TV's most infamous figures, with a raw and unfiltered look at the chaos of television production. Released on May 23rd, 1980, the film holds a 37% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes and a 4.4 out of 10 from users on IMDb. Hey everyone, get ready to dive into the scariest hotel in movie lore with The Shining, 1980. Directed by the legendary Stanley Kubrick and spun from Stephen King's spine-chilling novel, this movie will have you clinging to your nightlight for days. What's going on? Say hi to Jack Torrance, played by the amazing Jack Nicholson, a writer who's battling a killer writer's block. He's just landed a gig as the winter caretaker at the Overlook Hotel, where the halls are endless, the ghosts won't stop gabbing, and good luck getting any bars on your phone. Jack figures it's the perfect spot to crack on with his book, chill with his family, and hopefully not have a chat with an imaginary bartender. But here's the twist. The hotel has its own ideas. It's like the weirdest, wildest Airbnb you've ever seen. Jack's kid, Danny, is stuck with The Shining, which means he's tuned into the hotel's eerie vibes round the clock. Not exactly the best superpower to have. The descent into madness. As the snow builds up and sanity starts slipping away, watch Jack go from quirky dad to full-on terror with an axe. Seriously, the scene where he busts through the bathroom door and shouts, "Here's Johnny," might just make you think twice about fixing up your own place. Why should you watch? Kubrick's genius touch. Expect plenty of Steadicam action and long, haunting hallways that pull you right into the madness. Jack Nicholson in full force. Watching him unravel in this flick is a wild ride from start to finish. That creepy soundtrack. Wendy Carlos and Rachel Elkind knocked it out of the park. It's like they wired the chills directly to your spine. Did you know? Fun fact, the famous "Here's Johnny" line was totally ad-libbed by Nicholson. Kubrick didn't even get the reference at first and almost cut it. The legacy. Though it started off slow at the box office, The Shining is now a horror staple. It even scored a sequel, Dr. Sleep, because we just can't get enough of those chills. So grab your snacks and a cozy blanket, perfect for hiding behind, and settle in with The Shining. Just remember, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, and a dull Jack is not someone you want to mess with. The Shining was released on May 23rd, 1980. The film holds an 83% critics score on Rotten Tomatoes and a remarkable 8.4 out of 10 rating from users on IMDb. Hey everyone, check out Voyage, Charlie Brown and Don't Come Back, a super fun 1980 animated film inspired by the Peanuts comics we all love, written by Charles M. Schulz. This is the fourth full-length Peanuts movie, and it's all about an awesome international trip. So Charlie Brown, Linus, Peppermint Patty, Marcy, and of course Snoopy head to France on a student exchange. The whole adventure starts with a mysterious letter in French that Charlie Brown gets, inviting him to stay at a chateau in the countryside. When they get to France, it's just one hilarious situation after another. They struggle with the language, experience all sorts of cultural mix-ups, and Snoopy and Woodstock, as always, are up to their own shenanigans. They finally reach the chateau and meet Violette Honfleur, who has a special connection to Charlie Brown's grandpa from way back in World War I. It all wraps up warmly as they discover more about their ties to Violette's family. Audiences and critics totally dug the movie for its humor, vibe, and staying true to the Peanuts spirit. Though it did okay at the box office, it's become a total nostalgia trip for Peanuts fans. This movie's a bit different from the rest. It takes our favorite gang out of suburbia and throws them into a European adventure, which everyone really seems to love. It's a classic Peanuts story that shows why Schulz's creations are timeless. Did you know that the inspiration for this film came from Charles M. Schulz's own experiences? Yup, during World War II, he served in France as a staff sergeant in the US Army. He fell in love with the country, which totally influenced this movie. The chateau where the gang stays. It's based on a real one Schulz visited back in the day. How cool is that? Bon Voyage. Charlie Brown was released on May 30th, 1980. The animated feature holds a 79% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes and a 7.1 out of 10 rating on IMDb. The Hollywood Nights ain't your grandma's 1980 comedy. This flick takes you back to the early 60s, with a bunch of rowdy teens tearing it up in their club, the Hollywood Nights. They're spending one last night at Tubby's Drive-In, their top hangout spot, because it's about to get smashed down. Leading the pack is Nude Bomb Turk, played by Robert Wuhl, a total legend. Him and the crew decide they're going to go out with a bang, pulling epic pranks and poking fun at the uptight local cops and the snobby Beverly Hills Residents Association. Think crude, in-your-face humor. If you dug Animal House, you'll feel right at home. It's a wild combo of slapstick, dirty jokes, and some sweet, heartfelt moments that'll make you miss the days of muscle cars and drive-ins. The gang's all here. Robert Wall hitting up as the prankster king, Nude Bomb Turk. Tony Danza as Duke, getting ready for Vietnam. Fran Drescher, the sharp-tongued Sally. And catch Michelle Pfeiffer in her first film role as Susie Q, the cheerleader. Critics hated The Hollywood Knights. Critic Mike Hughes said the film deserved an N for nasty instead of an R rating. Critic Al Haas gave Hollywood Knights a dubious award for sinking to the depths of crudity. Another critic said, seeing The Hollywood Knights once is once too often. The Hollywood Knights is a drudge through sludge in movie form. Critic Jack Matthews trashed The Hollywood Knights, delighting in calling the movie garbage. And critic Michael Massa offered the kindest review, stating that it's a night you won't remember. The Hollywood Knights was released on May 30th, 1980. The film holds a 14% critics rating on Rotten Tomatoes and a surprisingly good 6.2 out of 10 rating from users on IMDb.